My name is Alara Whitmore, 32 years old. At the baby shower, I was seated by the bathroom, far from the main table. "You're at table 7, the event coordinator whispered, almost embarrassed, handing me a tiny folded card that read, "Additional guest." I blinked and looked around the crowded room. Streamers and pastel balloons hung from the ceiling, glittery banners spelling out "Welcome, baby" across every wall. The theme was boho safari, earth tones, dried pampas grass, fake greenery, climbing up gold-painted arches. I had helped pick every detail. I knew exactly how much the balloon installation cost. I knew because I'd paid the deposit. There were 8 tables, 7 clustered in a soft semicircle around the lavish cake display, and the oversized wicker chair meant to look like a throne for my sister. And then there was one table shoved into the corner near the kitchen hallway and directly outside the restroom. That one was mine. I walked toward it slowly, heels clicking against the polished floor, each step sounding louder than it should have. The metal chair creaked when I sat down, the satin cover slipping awkwardly beneath me. From there, I could smell bleach and artificial lavender. Every few minutes, the bathroom door swung open behind me, releasing a gust of cheap floral spray. I swallowed. At the main table sat Mom, Dad, Aunt Teresa, Claire's best friend Sam, and in the seat that, according to the seating chart Claire and I had finalized together, was supposed to be mine, sat Daniel, my sister's brand new husband of 6 months. He looked comfortable, relaxed, like he had always belonged there. I caught Mom's eye across the room. She smiled brightly and lifted her mimosa glass toward me in a small toast, her lips forming the words, "He's family now." I looked back down at the card in my hand. Additional guest. 3 days of baking cookies for the favor bags. Designing invitations. Calling the bakery to adjust the cake flavor when Claire changed her mind for the 3rd time. Covering the catering deposit when Mom hesitated. And beneath the cake table, hidden carefully in a matte ivory box, was a check for $6,000. 6 months of diapers. Formula. Rent support. A cushion for when Daniel's contract job temporarily paused, which everyone pretended wasn't a polite way of saying unemployed. I told myself it was love, that this was what supportive older sisters did. But something inside me shifted. It wasn't loud. There was no dramatic swell of music, no scene, just the quiet sensation of a thread snapping after years of strain. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the cake table. No one noticed. Claire was laughing, one hand resting theatrically on her belly while Daniel whispered something into her ear. Mom leaned toward him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. I bent slightly, as if adjusting my shoe, and pushed the gift box further under the table, out of sight. Then I walked out. The baby shower music, soft acoustic covers of lullabies, faded behind me as the door shut. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Voicemail from Claire. "Where is your gift? Everyone's asking. You didn't even say goodbye. Kind of rude, honestly." I stared at the transcription without emotion. I responded with one sentence. Already taken care of. By 6:43 p.m., Dad had called 11 times. "You've always been extra," he finally left in a voicemail. "Overly sensitive." That phrase wasn't new. It had followed me since childhood. Claire is 4 years younger than me. The golden one. The delicate one. The one who needed more support. When she got her first car at 16, I was told I was too responsible to need one. I took the bus until I was 23. When she dropped out of college, twice, I helped her fill out applications for massage therapy school and paid the fees. When her first husband drained her credit cards and left with her best friend, I picked her up at 2 a.m. with a suitcase and swollen eyes. She stayed in my apartment 4 months rent-free. She never said thank you, but she did call me a saint once. At her courthouse wedding to Daniel, I paid for the family dinner afterward. She squeezed my hand in front of everyone and said, "I don't know what I'd do without Alara." I remember holding on to that sentence like it meant something permanent. It didn't. Planning this baby shower was supposed to be our thing. She called me constantly about registry items, about whether safari animals were too gender neutral, about whether eucalyptus would clash with terracotta table runners. I offered to host it at my house. Mom shut that down immediately. We already booked a venue. I knew they hadn't. Still, I showed up. Every planning meeting, every errand. I remembered sitting at Claire's kitchen table 2 weeks ago, the seating chart open between us. "You're at table 1, obviously," she'd said casually. "Immediate family." Daniel had shrugged. "I don't even like these things. Seat me wherever." So how did he end up in my chair? From my metal seat by the bathroom, I watched him raise his glass during the toast, hand resting proudly on Claire's stomach. Mom beamed at him. Soft, warm, proud. I don't think she's looked at me like that since my college graduation. And even then, she hadn't been there. She was sick. Dad stayed home with her. Claire arrived late and left early, claiming the auditorium lighting triggered migraines. I had stood on stage afterward holding my diploma, scanning the crowd for faces that weren't there. I should have learned then. But I didn't, because I kept thinking if I gave enough, paid enough, helped enough, I would eventually earn my seat. Instead, I earned table 7. The phone buzzed again. More missed calls. Mom this time. I don't know what you're trying to prove, her voicemail said sharply. Your sister is crying. Crying. Not because I was seated by the bathroom, not because I left quietly, but because the gift wasn't visible. That detail settled heavily in my chest. The gift wasn't a stuffed giraffe or a diaper cake. It was $6,000. My Italy fund. The trip I had been planning for myself next year. Florence, Lake Como, a week where no one needed anything from me. I had cashed out a short-term CD for that check. Just once I had told myself I'd do something for me. Instead, I funded another chapter of Claire's life. And she placed me next to a toilet. I turned my phone face down on the kitchen counter and let it vibrate until it stopped. By Monday afternoon, there was a knock at my apartment door. I didn't need to check the peephole. Mom stood there, hair perfectly styled, lipstick immaculate, her smile tight and controlled. She walked inside without being invited. I've been calling, she said. I know. She turned sharply. What exactly was that performance at the shower? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was for Claire? For me? I asked quietly. It was the only seat left. No, I said evenly. It wasn't. You put Daniel in mine. He's her husband. He's immediate family now. The words hit differently this time. Immediate family. So I'm what? I asked. Extended? She exhaled impatiently. Why are you so dramatic about a chair? I laughed once, bitter and hollow. It's not about the chair. It never was. And as I stood there, facing her in my own living room, I realized something I hadn't fully admitted yet. This wasn't a mistake. This was a message. And for the first time in my life, I was finally ready to read it. It's not about the chair, I repeated, my voice steadier than I felt. It's about every single time I've shown up and somehow still ended up outside the circle. Mom crossed her arms, her bracelets clinking sharply. Oh God, Alara, not this again. Yes, I said, this again. She rolled her eyes the way she used to when I cried as a teenager. Like my feelings were inconvenient clutter she had to step around. Your sister is pregnant, she snapped. Hormones are high, emotions are fragile, and you chose her baby shower to stage a protest? I stared at her. A protest? You left without saying goodbye. You took your gift. People noticed. There it was. Not you were hurt, not we mishandled this. Just optics. I didn't take anything, I said quietly. Her gaze sharpened. Then where is it? For a moment, I said nothing. I let the silence stretch just enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I walked to the side table by the window and pulled open the drawer. Inside was a slim folder. I handed her a single sheet of paper. She frowned. What is this? A copy of the check I left under the cake table. Her eyes moved across the numbers. $6,000. Her lips parted slightly. Left? I canceled it. The room went still. You what? Her voice dropped an octave, stunned. I called the bank the next morning. Stop payment. They said it wasn't a problem since it hadn't been deposited. Mom stared at me like she was seeing someone unfamiliar. She's going to be furious, she whispered. I know. You did this to punish her. No, I said evenly. I did it because I realized I was buying a seat at a table that was never mine. Her expression hardened. You're being selfish. That word landed heavier than I expected. Selfish, I repeated. Yes, this silent treatment, this drama. Family doesn't behave like this. I stepped back, folding my arms to keep my hands from shaking. Family also doesn't treat one member like an ATM. Her jaw tightened. We never asked you to give that money. You didn't have to, I said. You expected it. A flicker crossed her face, too quick to name. Not guilt. Recognition. I pressed on. I paid for Claire's divorce consultation. I paid for her moving truck. I paid for the wedding dinner. I paid for your hotel room. I paid for their honeymoon. You offered, Mom insisted. I always offer, I shot back, because if I don't, everyone just stares at the floor until I do. She didn't answer. I could see it now, laid out clearly. I had been useful, reliable, predictable. And today, for the first time, I hadn't been. Mom's voice softened, but it wasn't kindness. It was calculation. Claire has been through a lot. Her first marriage failed. Daniel's job is unstable. She's scared. So was I said. She blinked. About what? About never being enough unless I'm paying. The words hung between us. She looked away first. Then she said it. You should have been grateful to be invited at all. My heartbeat slowed, oddly calm. She didn't even want to include you at first, Mom continued, quieter now. She said it would be awkward. Awkward? Because I out-earn her? Because I see through her? Because I don't clap loudly enough? I felt something final click into place inside me. Thank you, I said. She frowned. For what? For finally saying it out loud. Mom shifted uncomfortably. Don't twist this. I'm not twisting anything. I walked to the door and opened it. You're really cutting off your family over a chair? She asked, disbelief laced with anger. No, I replied. I'm cutting off my family because this was the 100th chair. For the first time, her composure cracked. Just slightly. What will people think? She whispered. They'll think whatever you tell them. She hesitated in the doorway. You always carve the turkey at Thanksgiving, she said softly, as if that was the thread that would pull me back. Not this year. She studied me carefully, searching for the hesitation she was used to finding. The guilt. The softening. It wasn't there. Claire won't let this go, she warned. I know. And if something happens with the baby, that's not fair, I cut in sharply. She stopped. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Two women who shared the same eyes, but had never truly seen each other. Then she left. The door closed with a soft click, and the silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was clean. The first 3 days were unnervingly quiet. No all-caps messages from Claire, no group chat explosions. No dramatic midnight calls from Dad. It almost felt like the calm before a storm. I half expected someone to show up again, louder this time. Instead, I woke up Monday morning and made coffee without checking my phone first. The world didn't end. No one needed me to fix anything. The absence of urgency felt foreign. On Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Daniel. I almost didn't open it. I'm sorry, the message read. I didn't know she changed the seating chart. She told me it was your idea. My stomach tightened. Another message followed. I saw where you were sitting. I should have said something. I just didn't want to cause a scene. I stared at the screen. Then, I found the check under the cake table. Claire thought someone stole it. I didn't tell her what I saw. Just put it in a drawer. My pulse thudded. So he had known. He had watched. He had stayed silent. But he was speaking now. Why? Guilt? Self-preservation? Something else? I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I was listening. Listening to what people did when I stopped cushioning their fall. That evening, the storm finally arrived. Claire's name lit up my screen. I let it ring. Then the voicemail came. You canceled it? She hissed, fury barely contained. After everything I've been through during this pregnancy? After all I've done for you? For me? You don't get to abandon your family when things get hard, she continued. You don't get to play victim when you're the one causing pain. I deleted it without replaying it. An hour later, Dad called. I answered this time. What's gotten into you? He asked immediately. Hi, Dad. You humiliated your sister. I left quietly. You embarrassed us. By not funding the event? I asked calmly. Silence. You're part of this family, he said finally. I know, I replied. That's the problem. Another long pause. Then, softer, your mother didn't mean what she said. Yes, I said, she did. The line went dead. Later that night, as I stood in my kitchen rinsing a mug, my phone buzzed again. Daniel. She found out about the canceled check. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. She's furious. At you. At me. I told her the seating thing wasn't an accident. My breath caught. Another message. I think we're in trouble. I set the phone down slowly. This wasn't just about a chair anymore. It wasn't even about money. It was about exposure. And for the first time, the truth wasn't being absorbed quietly by me. It was ricocheting back into the room it came from. The house felt different after that last message from Daniel. Not louder, not dramatic. Just aware. Like something fragile had finally cracked somewhere else for a change. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm and lay still, staring at the ceiling. I waited for the familiar surge of guilt to hit me, the tightening in my chest, the mental rehearsal of apologies I would never deliver. It didn't come. Instead, there was quiet. Not the suffocating kind, the spacious kind. By noon, my phone buzzed again. Daniel, she thinks you did this to sabotage us. I didn't respond. A minute later, I told her the seating chart wasn't your idea. She admitted she moved you. My hand froze above the counter. Admitted. The word felt heavier than everything else. Another message followed. She said she didn't want you at the main table because you make everything about you. That people compare her to you. That it's embarrassing. Embarrassing. I leaned back against the kitchen cabinet and closed my eyes. There it was. Not an accident. Not a last-minute adjustment. Not the only seat left. A decision. Calculated, intentional. You're at table 7. Additional guest. I typed a response, then deleted it. Typed again. Thank you for telling me. That was all. He didn't reply for several minutes. Then, I'm sorry I didn't say anything that day. I should have. I set the phone down. It would have mattered then. But now it was just confirmation. That evening, Claire called again. This time, I answered. What? She demanded immediately, skipping hello. Hi to you too. You humiliated me, she said. I could hear the tightness in her breathing, the way she always sounded when she was about to cry, but refused to let herself. I left quietly. You canceled a check for $6,000, Alara. Yes. You know Daniel's contract ended. You know we're stressed. I know, I said evenly, and I also know you moved me to the bathroom on purpose. Silence. Then, sharper. Who told you that? So it's true. That's not the point, she snapped. It is the only point. Her voice rose. You always have to be the martyr, the generous one, the perfect one. You think that doesn't make me look bad? I blinked. I never asked to be compared to you, she continued, words spilling now. Mom and Dad do that. Everyone does. Why can't you be more like Alara? Alara has her life together. Alara bought her own place. Do you know how exhausting that is? Something inside me shifted, not anger, not sympathy, recognition. So you punished me? I asked quietly. I just wanted one day, she said. One day where I didn't feel overshadowed. By sitting me next to a toilet? She didn't answer. I pressed on. You could have talked to me. You wouldn't have understood. I understand more than you think. Another long silence. Then she said, lower now. You make it hard to need help. The words caught me off guard. How? Because when you help, it's big. It's dramatic. $6,000? Who does that? It makes Daniel feel small. It makes me feel incapable. I let that sink in. I had always believed I was cushioning her. Had I been amplifying something else? I didn't mean to make you feel small, I said. Well, you did, she whispered. The anger was gone now, replaced by something raw. But that doesn't justify humiliating me, I added. No, she said after a beat. It doesn't. It was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever heard from her. But it wasn't an apology. So what now, she asked. Now, I repeated. Now I stop. Stop what? Financing your life. Fixing everything, trying to earn a seat. She inhaled sharply. You're really choosing this over your family? I'm choosing myself. Her voice hardened again, defense snapping back into place. Fine, then don't expect to be part of this baby's life. The threat hung there. I felt the old reflex stir, the panic, the urge to negotiate. Instead, I said, that's your decision. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that. The next day, the extended family group chat lit up. Aunt Teresa's name appeared. I saw where Alara was seated at the shower. I thought it was a mistake. It wasn't right. No emojis, no elaboration. Just that. No one responded publicly. But privately, my phone began to buzz. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years sent a photo of her toddler with a simple, thinking of you. An old aunt messaged, family dynamics can be complicated. Take care of yourself. They didn't say it outright, but they knew. By Friday, Daniel texted again. We had a bad fight. I didn't ask for details. He sent them anyway. I told her moving you was cruel. She said I don't understand sibling rivalry. I said this isn't high school. Another pause. She accused me of caring more about you than her. I exhaled slowly. This was spiraling beyond me. I don't, he added quickly, but I care about fairness. Fairness. It sounded almost foreign in the context of my family. That night, Dad called again. I spoke to your sister, he said, voice tired. And? She says you've always made her feel inadequate. I closed my eyes. Did she also tell you she moved me intentionally? He hesitated. She said she needed boundaries. By demoting me to additional guest? Another pause. You could have handled it privately, he said. I did, I replied. By leaving. He sighed. Daniel is upset. I know. He says they're not seeing eye to eye. There it was. The fracture. You think this is my fault? I asked quietly. I think, he said slowly, that sometimes when one piece shifts, everything else moves. For once, I agreed with him. After we hung up, I sat on my couch in the dim light of my living room. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exposed. All these years, I had absorbed the imbalance quietly, smoothed it over, paid for it. Now that I wasn't, the instability was visible to everyone. The next Tuesday morning, another message from Daniel appeared. She found the bank notice. The canceled check confirmation came in the mail. My heart thudded once. She says you've always resented her. 3 dots. I told her resentment grows where gratitude doesn't. I stared at that line for a long time. Then the final message. I don't think our marriage is going to survive this. The words didn't feel dramatic. They felt inevitable. And for the first time, I realized something unsettling. The seat by the bathroom hadn't just revealed where I stood in my family. It had revealed the fault lines in theirs. The message sat on my screen for a long time. I don't think our marriage is going to survive this. I read it 3 times, waiting for guilt to surface, waiting for the old instinct to fix it, to call Claire, to smooth it over, to apologize for something that wasn't mine to carry. Nothing came. Instead, there was a steady, grounded awareness. This wasn't my fire to put out. That night, Daniel called. I hesitated before answering. "I won't keep you long," he said immediately. His voice sounded different, less polished, less careful. "I just needed to say this out loud." I didn't speak. "She admitted she moved you because she didn't want comparisons," he continued. "She said every time you walk into a room, people ask about your job, your trips, your projects. She feels like the cautionary tale standing next to the success story." I leaned back against the couch. "I never wanted that," I said quietly. "I know," he replied. "That's the thing. You don't even try." There was no accusation in his tone, just observation. "She said canceling the check proved you've always been keeping score." That stung more than I expected. "I wasn't keeping score," I said. "I was keeping hope." Silence. Then he exhaled. "She told me if I defend you again, I can leave." My chest tightened slightly, not out of affection for him, but because I recognized the ultimatum. I'd lived inside versions of it my whole life. "And what did you say?" I asked. "I said fairness shouldn't be negotiable." A long pause. "She packed a bag," he added. "Went to Mom and Dad's." There it was. The house that had always absorbed Claire's collapses. "She told them I betrayed her," he continued, "that I sided with you." I closed my eyes. "I didn't ask you to take sides," I said. "I know," he replied again. "That's what makes this worse." We said goodbye shortly after that. No dramatic ending. Just the sound of two people stepping back from something unstable. The next day, Mom called. I let it ring twice before answering. "What did you say to Daniel?" she demanded, skipping any greeting. "Hello to you too." "Don't be clever. Claire is here. She's hysterical." I didn't say anything that wasn't already true. "You've destabilized her marriage," Mom said, her voice sharp and accusing. "Over pride." I felt something solidify inside me. "No," I said calmly. "Her marriage is destabilized because it couldn't withstand honesty." "She's pregnant," Mom shot back. "Stress isn't good for the baby." There it was again, the emotional leverage. "I didn't move myself to table 7, I replied. "I didn't lie about it. I didn't issue ultimatums." "She feels attacked." I felt erased. Mom went quiet for a moment. Then, lower, she said, "You've always judged her." I let that sit. I judged her decisions sometimes, I admitted, but I still showed up. Mom didn't respond immediately. Finally, she said, "She thinks you enjoy this." The accusation was so absurd I almost laughed. "Enjoy what? Watching everything implode?" "She says you finally got what you wanted." "And what's that?" "To be right." The irony was almost poetic. "I don't want to be right," I said. "I want to be respected." Silence again. Then softer, more uncertain. "Your father thinks this has gone too far." "It went too far years ago," I replied. After we hung up, I blocked Claire's number. Not in anger, in clarity. Over the next week, the updates came indirectly. Daniel moved into a short-term rental. Claire stayed with my parents. Arguments echoed through their house, the same house where I'd once been told I should feel grateful just to be included. Aunt Teresa called me privately. "She's saying you've always held your success over her head," she said gently. "I never talk about my work unless someone asks," I replied. "I know," Aunt Teresa said, "but sometimes people project their insecurities onto the closest target." I knew she was trying to soften it, but projection still leaves bruises. One evening, Daniel sent a final message. "I filed for a temporary separation. I can't build a life where accountability is the enemy." My chest felt tight, but not with sorrow, with recognition. "I don't blame you," I replied. A few minutes later, "Thank you for the honeymoon, and for showing me what quiet strength looks like." I didn't know how to answer that, so I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop. For the first time in months, I pulled up the Italy itinerary I'd saved. Florence, Lake Como, Rome. I rebooked the flight. My finger hovered over the confirmation button for a long moment. Then I clicked. The next Saturday, I met my friend Melissa for coffee. "You look lighter," she observed, studying my face. "I feel lighter," I admitted. "No guilt spiral?" "Surprisingly, no," she smiled. "Maybe because you didn't do anything wrong." That was the strange part. For years, I had assumed discomfort meant I was failing someone. Now I was learning it sometimes meant I was protecting myself. 3 months passed. Daniel finalized the separation paperwork. Claire announced on social media that she was focusing on herself and the baby. No mention of him. No mention of me. Mom stopped calling. Dad sent a Hallmark card that read, "Families bend, but don't break." He signed his name underneath the printed sentiment. No handwritten note. I placed it in a drawer and didn't respond. One quiet Tuesday morning, as sunlight filtered across my kitchen floor, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. I answered. Silence. Then Claire's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Are you happy now?" I closed my eyes. "No," I said honestly. I'm peaceful. She didn't speak for a few seconds. They all think you destroyed my marriage. I didn't move the chair, I replied gently. Another pause. Then, barely audible, I didn't think it would go this far. Neither had I. But some fractures don't appear because of one moment. They appear because pressure has been building for years. I never wanted your life to fall apart, I said. I just wanted one day, she whispered again. And I wanted one seat. We both sat in the quiet of that shared truth. Finally, she said, I don't know how to fix this. For the first time, I didn't have an answer. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to find one. That's not my job anymore, I said softly. She didn't argue. When the call ended, I stood by the window and watched the city move below me. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt untethered. The folding chair near the bathroom had been humiliating. But it had also been honest. It showed me exactly where I stood. And once you see that clearly, you can't unsee it. It's been 3 months since the baby shower. 3 months since table 7. 3 months since I stopped trying to earn something that was never freely given. The silence that followed wasn't dramatic. It didn't echo. It didn't ache. It healed. For the first few weeks, I kept waiting for guilt to creep back in, for the late-night self-doubt, for the sudden urge to text Claire and say, maybe I overreacted. But that voice never returned. Instead, something else settled in its place. Clarity. I didn't realize how much of my identity had been built around being needed. The reliable one. The fixer. The quiet financial cushion beneath every one of Claire's collapses. When that role disappeared, I thought I'd feel empty. I felt spacious. Italy was everything I had postponed for years. Florence at sunrise. The sound of footsteps on old cobblestone. The simple luxury of ordering coffee without checking my phone between sips. No emergency calls. No subtle guilt texts. No, can you just help with one thing? One afternoon in Lake Como, I sat by the water and realized something unsettling. I had always believed my generosity made me indispensable. But it hadn't. It had made me convenient. There's a difference. When I came home, my apartment felt different too. Not lonely, just mine. I signed up for the creative writing class I had skipped for 3 years straight, because family events might come up. I started saying yes to friends without checking a family calendar first. Melissa invited me to a small dinner party one Friday night. No drama, no hierarchy, no invisible seating chart politics. Just people who wanted me there. And they made that clear. Dad called once more, about a month ago. He didn't mention Claire. He didn't mention Daniel. He talked about the weather, about a neighbor's new fence, about nothing. Then, at the end of the call, he cleared his throat. You've always been strong, he said. It wasn't quite an apology, but it wasn't dismissal either. Strength isn't the same as silence, I replied gently. He didn't argue. Mom hasn't called. I heard through Aunt Teresa that Claire moved into a smaller apartment closer to my parents. She's due in 2 months. Daniel will be involved, but they're not reconciling. No one says my name in that context anymore. I'm no longer the villain, but I'm not the hero either. I'm just separate. Last week, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was a small envelope. In it, a folded place card. Immediate family. My handwriting. The one I'd used when Claire and I designed the original seating chart. On the back, in different ink, were 3 words. I was wrong. No signature. But I knew. I sat on my couch for a long time, holding that card. It wasn't a grand apology. It wasn't public accountability. It wasn't a speech. But it was the first time Claire had ever admitted fault without a defense attached. I didn't call her. Not yet. Because forgiveness isn't urgency, and reconciliation isn't automatic. It's earned differently than money. Sometimes I think back to that folding chair near the bathroom, to the scent of bleach, to the card that read additional guest. It stung because it was honest. I had been additional, tolerated, useful, expected to show up, smile, and fund the show. But here's what changed. I stopped showing up where I wasn't valued. And suddenly the room rearranged itself. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but truthfully. I am not a backup wallet. I am not a quiet sponsor. I am not the emotional insurance policy for everyone else's instability. And I am not a guest in my own story. Walking out of that baby shower wasn't dramatic. Canceling the check wasn't revenge. It was alignment. The moment I stopped paying for proximity and started demanding respect. And here's the part no one tells you about boundaries. When you finally enforce them, you don't feel powerful. You feel peaceful. I don't regret the 11 missed calls. I don't regret the silence. I don't regret table 7. Because that folding chair didn't humiliate me. It revealed me. And once you see your worth clearly, you never sit in the wrong seat again.